I stood at the gate, my first-class boarding pass for seat 1B clutched tightly, the weight of anticipation pressing against my chest. I'm Marcus Thompson, CEO of NexusGuard, a cybersecurity firm worth $6.8 billion, built from late nights coding in a cramped Atlanta apartment. Today was supposed to be a triumph, a flight to Seattle to finalize a $1.9 billion Pentagon contract, the kind of deal that could cement my legacy. At 45, I'd climbed from East Atlanta's cracked sidewalks to boardrooms, my tailored suit a far cry from the hand-me-downs of my youth. But as I handed my pass to the gate agent, her eyes flicked up, and a familiar chill settled in my gut. Her smile faltered, and she paused, studying the pass like it was a riddle. "One moment, sir," she said, her voice clipped, and I knew what was coming. I'd felt this before, too many times. The subtle shift when someone sees a black man in a space they think he doesn't belong. She passed my ticket to a flight attendant, Laura Bennett, whose greeting withered as she glanced at me. "Can I see your ID?" she asked, her tone overly polite, like she was humoring me. I pulled out my driver's license, the Georgia seal gleaming under the airport's harsh lights, and handed it over. Laura scrutinized it, then the boarding pass, her brow furrowing as if my presence in first class was a glitch. "There's an issue with your seat," she said, not meeting my eyes. My pulse quickened, but I kept my voice steady. "No issue. Seat 1B, confirmed. Check again." She hesitated, then signaled a man with a name tag reading Stephen Hayes, lead flight attendant. His smile was practiced, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Mr. Thompson, there's a mix-up," he said, holding my pass like it was evidence. "First class is full with our regular passengers." The word regular landed like a slap. Regular passengers. Not me. Not a black man who'd earned his place. I felt the eyes of other passengers, mostly white, mostly silent, boring into me. A businessman in a gray suit glanced my way, then looked down, uncomfortable but unwilling to speak. I handed Stephen my ID again. Seat 1B. Valid ticket. Valid ID. What's the problem? He barely glanced at it, his tone sharpening. There's a system error. Step aside so we can board the others. My chest tightened, anger simmering beneath my calm. I paid for first class. There's no error except your assumption I don't belong here. Stephen's face hardened. Lower your voice, sir, he said, though I hadn't raised it. I pulled out my phone. I'm recording this. His eyes narrowed. That's against policy. I stood firm. We're in the jetway, not the plane. Airport property. The air grew thick with tension. Stephen radioed security, his voice low but clear, assistance at gate B12. My heart pounded, not from fear but from the weight of history, mine and this country's. I thought of my childhood, teaching myself to code on a donated computer while working 2 jobs to help mama pay rent. I thought of my first investor meeting, where they assumed I was the delivery guy. 20 years of proving myself, building a company that protected millions, and still, here I was, defending my right to a seat I'd paid for. 2 security officers arrived, their faces blank. This passenger is being disruptive, Stephen said, ignoring the boarding pass in my hand. I have a valid ticket, I told them, my voice steady. They're refusing to honor it. The older officer, a white man with a buzz cut, sighed. If the crew says you need to deplane, you do. Let's discuss this in the terminal. I could have argued, pushed harder, but I knew the risk. A black man standing his ground can escalate to something dangerous in seconds. So I walked back up the jetway, flanked by security, my dignity intact but humiliation burning like a coal. Passengers stared, some filming, their phones capturing my shame. I kept streaming to my 200,000 ex-followers, narrating, denied my seat because of my skin. This is what racism looks like. The video spread, hashtag flying while black trending as I reached the terminal. The officers left me there, and I sank into a lounge chair, my coffee untouched, the Pentagon meeting now in jeopardy. 18 months of work, thousands of hours, all threatened by 6 minutes of prejudice. My phone buzzed with a text from Aisha Carter, my COO and oldest friend. They picked the wrong fight, Marcus. What's next? I stared at my reflection in the lounge window, the man I'd become, 6 feet 2 inches, a CEO, a father. Colliding with the boy who'd once been told he'd never make it out of East Atlanta. The anger wasn't just for me. It was for every black person who'd faced this, who'd been questioned, diminished, dismissed. In 2023, black families held $24,100 in median wealth, 8 times less than white families' $188,200, a gap carved by decades of exclusion. This wasn't just my story, it was ours. I thought of Mama, who'd worked double shifts as a nurse, telling me, "You gotta be twice as good to get half as far." I'd been twice as good, more, and still, Stephen Hayes saw only my skin. The businessman in the gray suit flashed in my mind, his silence louder than words. Complicity. That's what let this fester. But today was different. I wasn't that kid anymore, swallowing slights to survive. I had power now, and I'd use it. Aisha called, her voice sharp. Horizon Airways runs on our secure flow system. Every booking, payment, flight schedule, ours. The realization hit like a spark. NexusGuard controlled their digital lifeline. When's their next audit? I asked. 2 weeks, she said. We can move it up. Now. A full security audit, per our contract, could lock their systems for 24 hours, halting operations. It was legal, precise, and devastating. Do it, I said. Full spectrum. Aisha's voice carried a grin. They're about to learn, Marcus. As she rallied our tech team, I launched a justice dashboard on X, a live tracker of Horizon's response, flight delays, stock dips, public outrage. My followers jumped in, sharing updates, amplifying the pressure. I felt a surge of defiance, the kind that comes from knowing you're not just fighting for yourself. This was for the black lawyer questioned in first class, the doctor mistaken for a porter, the countless others whose stories never made it to X. The audit kicked in, and within minutes, Horizon's systems froze. $1.9 billion in transactions stalled, 82 flights grounded, chaos spreading across 15 airports. My phone lit up with a call from Richard Lawson, Horizon CEO. "Mr. Thompson, there's been a misunderstanding," he said, his voice tight. I leaned back, the coal of humiliation now a flame of resolve. "No misunderstanding, Richard. Your staff discriminated against me. Fix it, or this gets worse." The emotional shift was seismic. I'd gone from shame to strength, from victim to victor. But beneath the fire, a quiet fear lingered. Would this cost me the contract? My reputation? My family's safety? I pushed it aside. This wasn't just about a seat. It was about dignity, about making racism costly, about showing the 25 to 55-year-olds watching on X that we could fight back. The dashboard ticked up, 500,000 views, 10,000 retweets. I wasn't alone. You weren't either. We were in this together, and Horizon was about to feel the weight of our collective demand for justice. Patricia Newman's voice trembled on the phone, a mix of desperation and disbelief, as she pleaded for me to stop the audit that had paralyzed Horizon Airways. I, Lena Harper, CEO of Tech Vanguard, sat in the Dallas, Fort Worth Airport lounge, my fingers tracing the rim of an untouched coffee cup, the weight of my decision settling like a storm in my chest. 6 minutes ago, I'd unleashed our SecurePulse system's full-spectrum security audit, freezing $1.9 billion in transactions and grounding 82 flights across 12 airports. My live-streamed humiliation, escorted off a first-class flight because I, a black woman, didn't belong, had ignited #FlyingWhileblack, and now, with my Truthcast podcast streaming to 700,000 listeners, I held Horizon's fate in my hands. But this wasn't just about revenge. It was about forcing a reckoning, making racism so costly that Gregory Vance's smug grin would never haunt another passenger again. Jamal Pierce, my COO, had texted moments before Patricia's call, "Systems locked. Horizon's bleeding. Your move, Lena." I pictured him in our Houston office, his sharp mind orchestrating our tech team like a conductor, his loyalty to me forged in our third ward days when we dreamed of outsmarting the world. Jamal knew what this meant to me, not just a seat, but a lifetime of proving I was enough. I'd grown up watching Mama, a single mother, scrub floors to pay our rent, her mantra echoing, "Lena, you shine twice as bright to be seen." I'd shown, building tech vanguard from nothing, securing contracts with Fortune 500s, but Gregory, with his icy disdain, had reduced me to a stereotype in seconds. His personnel file, unearthed by our team, revealed a pattern, for complaints from Black and Latino passengers, all dismissed by Horizon with vouchers and silence. He wasn't just a man, he was a systems enforcer, his prejudice a blade honed by years of impunity. I leaned back, replaying Patricia's words, "This is a misunderstanding, Ms. Harper." My laugh was bitter. "Your staff saw my skin and decided I didn't belong. That's not a misunderstanding, it's discrimination." I listed my demands: fire Gregory Vance, implement mandatory anti-bias training, launch a diversity hiring initiative, and issue a public apology admitting the truth. Patricia hesitated, her voice cracking. "That's excessive for one incident." My grip tightened on the phone. "One incident? It's a pattern. Your stock's down 22%. You've lost 30,000 ex-followers in an hour. Fix this, or the audit runs 23 more hours." The line went quiet, and I felt a surge of power, not the kind that corrupts, but the kind that rights wrongs. My Truthcast listeners were erupting, their comments flooding my dashboard. "Make them pay, Lena. This is for all of us." I wasn't alone. You, the 25 to 55-year-olds tuning in, were with me, your own stories of being questioned, dismissed, or overlooked fueling this fight. But power came with shadows. I thought of Zoe, my 15-year-old daughter, who'd texted earlier, "Mom, you're trending, but I'm scared." Her fear pierced me, a reminder of the stakes beyond contracts and stocks. I'd shielded her from Houston's harsher edges, sending her to private school, but racism didn't care about our $7 billion empire. Would this audit make her world safer or paint a target on her back? I pushed the doubt aside, focusing on the dashboard I'd launched, an interactive Justice Pulse on X, tracking Horizon's delays, financial losses, and public sentiment in real time. It showed 82 flights stalled, $50 million in estimated losses, and 10 million views of my Jetway video. The pulse wasn't just data, it was a heartbeat, yours and mine, demanding change. Gregory's face haunted me, his smirk a taunt. I learned more about him through our team's digging, a 20-year Horizon veteran, praised for efficiency, but feared by junior staff like Sarah Coleman, the attendant who'd hesitated before calling him. Sarah's perspective, pieced together later, revealed a woman trapped, newly promoted, desperate to keep her job, yet uneasy with Gregory's tactics. She'd seen him target passengers before, always minorities, always with that same grin, but speaking up meant risking her livelihood. Her silence in the Jetway wasn't malice, it was survival. I pitied her, but pity didn't erase her complicity. Gregory, though, was the architect, his confidence rooted in Horizon's protection. He'd never faced consequences, until now. Patricia called again, her tone softer but urgent. "We're reviewing your demands, but this audit's killing us. Payments are frozen, passengers are stranded." I felt a pang for those passengers, ordinary folks caught in the crossfire, but change wasn't gentle. "Then move faster," I said. "Your systems stay down until you commit." I hung up, my mind racing. Jamal's next text arrived, their CEO's panicking. Stocks at 25% down. Want to escalate? I hesitated. Escalation meant deeper disruption, more flights, more losses, but also more risk. The DoD contract, my company's future, teetered. Yet I thought of the black lawyer who tweeted, questioned in first class last week. Stayed quiet. Wish I hadn't. Hashtag flying while black. Her regret steeled me. Escalate, I texted back. Target their booking interface next. The Justice Pulse updated, 15 airports now in chaos, 100,000 X posts tagging Horizon. I imagined Patricia in her corner office, a white woman in her 60s, her polished career unraveling. Her perspective, though I'd never know it fully, was one of shock. She'd approved Tech Vanguard's contract, never dreaming we'd turn it against her. Her ignorance of Gregory's pattern mirrored corporate America's blind spots, where diversity was a poster, not a practice. In 2025, only 4% of Fortune 500 CEOs were black, and I'd fought for every inch of my seat at that table. Patricia's world was crumbling, but mine had been cracked long before, by teachers who doubted me, bosses who overlooked me, and now Gregory, whose bias threatened everything I'd built. My thoughts drifted to Mama, who died 5 years ago, her pride in me a quiet flame. Don't let them dim you, Lena, she'd said. I wasn't dimming now. I opened Truthcast, speaking to my listeners, this isn't just my fight. It's for every time you were told you didn't belong. Stay loud. The comments poured in, stories of microaggressions, of being followed in stores, of being too much for speaking up. You, the 25 to 55 crowd, understood. Maybe you're a nurse who's been ignored, a tech worker passed over, a parent teaching your kids to navigate bias. My podcast wasn't just a platform, it was a mirror, reflecting our shared resolve. But the weight grew heavier. A new text from Zoe, Mom, people at school are talking. Some say you're bullying Horizon. My heart sank. Was I? The audit was legal, my demands just, but the line between justice and vengeance blurred. I thought of Sarah, caught in Gregory's orbit, and wondered if she'd ever break free. I thought of the woman in the navy suit, her silence a choice that echoed in my daughter's classmates. Complicity wasn't just Gregory's, it was everywhere, and I was forcing it into the light. The Justice Pulse ticked up, Horizon stock down 27%, 40,000 followers lost. Patricia's next call would come soon, but I wasn't budging. Gregory's smirk, Horizon's silence, society's indifference, they'd all pay a price. Emotionally, I was a kaleidoscope, triumph at flipping the script, fear for Zoe's safety, grief for the innocence I'd lost long ago. The audit wasn't just a tool, it was my voice, amplified after years of being muted. I pictured Gregory, unaware his world was collapsing, his power built on a foundation now cracking. He wasn't just a villain, he was a symptom, and I was the cure. The Truthcast hit 1 million listeners, your voices joining mine. We weren't just fighting Horizon. We were rewriting what it meant to be seen, to be valued, to belong. And as the audit tightened its grip, I knew, this was only the beginning. The world shifted in the 6 weeks since I, Lena Harper, turned Horizon Airways prejudice into a public reckoning, my heart swelling with a fragile hope as I watched the ripples of my stand spread far beyond that Dallas jetway. My decision to unleash Tech Vanguard's SecurePulse audit, freezing $1.9 billion and grounding 82 flights, had forced Horizon to confront its systemic bias, but the impact now stretched into homes, boardrooms, and hearts across America. Sitting in my Houston office, I scrolled through my Justice Pulse dashboard, its numbers a testament to change, Horizon's discrimination complaints down 65%, their $40 million diversity initiative transforming hiring and training, their stock climbing 5% above pre-crisis levels. Yet, as my daughter Zoe's laughter echoed from the next room, I knew this wasn't just about numbers. It was about the future I was carving for her, for you, for every black American who'd been told they didn't belong. Horizon's transformation was undeniable. Patricia Newman, their CEO, had signed my demands. Gregory Vance, the lead flight attendant whose smirk had sparked this fire, was suspended pending investigation. Anti-bias training rolled out to 20,000 employees, and a diversity hiring program aimed to double Black and Latino staff by 2027. Their quarterly report, splashed across CNN, boasted a 65% drop in passenger complaints about bias, a stat that felt like a personal victory. But it wasn't just Horizon. 3 major airlines, Southwest, American, Delta, announced their own diversity programs, their CEOs citing my audit as a wake-up call. I felt a surge of pride, tempered by the memory of Gregory's eyes, his disdain a mirror of a society that still questioned my place. His suspension wasn't enough, his pattern, 5 complaints from minority passengers, buried by Horizon, demanded accountability. I channeled that fire into Code for Change, a $12 million Houston-based initiative to empower Black and Latino youth with tech skills. At its launch, 16-year-old Mia Torres, a shy coder from a Leaf, stood beside me, her app, a bias reporting tool for public spaces, already downloaded 10,000 times. "Ms. Harper, you showed me I can fight back," she said, her voice trembling. "Only 7% of U.S. tech workers are Black." Mia's spark was my answer to that gap. I thought of my own teenage years, sneaking into Houston's library to code, dreaming of a world where I wouldn't need to be twice as good. Code for Change wasn't just a program, it was a promise to kids like Mia, like Zoe, that their brilliance mattered. The #MySeatStory movement, born from my Truthcast podcast, had become a tidal wave. Black professionals shared their stories, engineers questioned in boardrooms, teachers mistaken for aides, a judge asked for ID at her own courthouse. A Black pilot tweeted, double-checked in first class by a flight attendant who knew I wasn't a captain. #MySeatStory. The hashtag led to the Equity Summit in Atlanta, where 300 leaders, including me, drafted a consumer justice network, a nonprofit offering legal aid to discrimination victims. My chest tightened with emotion as I spoke there, seeing faces like yours, 25 to 55-year-olds who'd faced the same slights, now standing taller. You, the nurse who's been ignored, the manager overlooked, the parent teaching resilience, were part of this. The summit wasn't just talk, it was action, a blueprint for change. But change wasn't linear. I learned more about Gregory through whispers from Horizon insiders. He wasn't just biased, he was strategic, cultivating loyalty among senior staff to shield his actions. Sarah Coleman, the attendant who'd hesitated in the jetway, had reported him once, only to be demoted to shorter routes. Her fear, of losing her job, of Gregory's retaliation, kept her silent that day. I didn't forgive her, but I understood. Gregory's power wasn't just personal, it was institutional, a microcosm of America's blind spots. In 2025, Black women like me were 3% of C-suite leaders, each step a battle against men like him. His suspension felt hollow when I learned he'd appealed, claiming reverse discrimination, his defiance a slap to every story shared on #MySeatStory. Jamal Pierce, my COO, saw the bigger picture. "Lena, you're not just changing Horizon, you're shifting how companies think," he said over coffee, his eyes gleaming with the same fire we'd shared in our Third Ward days. He'd spearheaded Code for Change's tech curriculum, mentoring kids like Mia, his own past, a scholarship kid who defied odds, fueling his drive. But Jamal worried too. "The summit's great, but the backlash is coming. Keep Zoe close." His words hit hard. Zoe, now 15, had joined #MySeatStory, posting about a teacher who'd assumed she cheated on a math test. Her courage thrilled me, but her vulnerability, trolls targeting her ex account, gnawed at my heart. I'd started this for her future, but was I endangering her present? Patricia's perspective, glimpsed through her public apology, revealed a woman grappling with her company's failures. "We let our passengers down," she said on MSNBC, her voice cracking. Ms. Harper's courage exposed our flaws. I wondered if she meant it or if it was PR. Her $40 million pledge suggested sincerity, but sincerity didn't erase Gregory's smirk or the passengers who'd watched me leave in silence. One of them, a woman in a navy suit, emailed me anonymously, "I should have spoken up. I'm sorry." Her regret, like Sarah's fear, was a thread in a larger tapestry, complicity woven into everyday choices. I didn't reply, but her words lingered, a reminder that change needed allies, not just victims. The Equity Summit birthed another idea, Voice Vanguard, a mobile app amplifying #MySeatStory. Users could record bias incidents, access legal resources, and connect with advocates, all powered by Tech Vanguard's AI. At its beta launch, a black barista shared her story, denied a promotion, then fired for attitude, and found pro bono counsel through the app. Her tears, her gratitude, hit me like a wave. This wasn't just tech. It was empowerment, a tool for the 25 to 55-year-olds who'd faced slights but lacked my platform. You, the teacher, the coder, the parent, could use Voice Vanguard to claim your seat, your voice, your dignity. Yet, the ripples weren't all smooth. Horizon stock recovery masked pushback, executives grumbling about forced diversity, passengers complaining about delays. Gregory's appeal gained traction on conservative X accounts, painting him as a victim of woke vengeance. I felt a chill, remembering Zoe's trolls. The DoD contract, secured despite the chaos, was a lifeline, but its $1.9 billion didn't shield me from doubt. Had I pushed too far? Mama's voice echoed, "Shine, Lena, but don't burn out." I wasn't burning out, but I was tired of fighting, of proving, of carrying a nation's weight. Still, Mia's app, Zoe's post, the summit's energy fueled me. They were my why. I stood at my office window, Houston's skyline a reminder of how far I'd come. The Justice Pulse showed 15 million #MySeatStory posts, a movement no one could ignore. But Gregory's appeal loomed, a shadow of resistance. Sarah, I learned, had quit Horizon, her resignation letter citing a toxic culture. Her choice was a spark, a sign that even the complicit could change. Patricia called, her tone earnest, "We're auditing our complaint system, Lena. This is real." I wanted to believe her, but trust was hard-won. The Consumer Justice Network, Voice Vanguard, Code for Change. They were my trust, my legacy, our future. Emotionally, I was a storm, pride in the movement, fear for Zoe, resolve for Mia. You felt it too, didn't you? The hope when a company bends, the anger when bias persists, the drive to build something better. This wasn't just my story. It was ours, a tapestry of resilience woven through every tweet, every app, every summit handshake. The ripples were spreading, but the tide wasn't fully turned. Gregory's shadow, Horizon's tests, Zoe's safety, they waited. And so did I, ready for the next wave. The weight of my fight against Horizon Airways settled into my bones like a cold fog, each step forward costing a piece of the peace I'd fought so hard to build. I, Lena Harper, CEO of Tech Vanguard, had turned a moment of humiliation, being escorted off a first-class flight for being black, into a movement that reshaped an industry. The $1.9 billion audit, the #MySeatStory wave, the Code for Change initiative, and the Voice Vanguard app were victories, but 3 months after that Dallas jetway, I sat in a Seattle safe house, my daughter Zoe's anxious eyes mirroring my own. The world saw me as a hero, my Truthcast podcast hitting 2 million listeners, but the personal toll was a shadow no X post could capture. Death threats filled my inbox, my board questioned my leadership, and Gregory Vance's defiance haunted me, his appeal a reminder that racism didn't yield without a fight. Yet, as I held Zoe's hand, I knew this was bigger than us, it was about every black woman who'd ever had to choose between dignity and safety. The threats began days after the audit, venomous emails and voicemails laced with slurs, each one a knife to my resolve. "Stay in your lane," one read, its words echoing Gregory's smirk in that jetway. My security chief, Marcus Evans, showed me a folder of screenshots, trolls on X, a suspicious car circling our Houston home. "We need to relocate, Lena," he said, his voice steady but grave. I nodded, but my heart broke as Zoe packed her sketchbooks, her 15-year-old world upended because her mother dared to stand. We moved to Seattle, 2,000 miles from home, a city chosen for its distance, not comfort. Zoe's silence in the safe house cut deeper than any threat. "I'm proud of you, Mom," she whispered one night, "but I'm scared." Her fear was my failure, a crack in the armor I'd worn since building Tech Vanguard from Houston's 3rd Ward. The boardroom added another weight. At Tech Vanguard's Chicago HQ, Evelyn Ward, a 62-year-old board member, leaned forward during a meeting, her voice sharp. "Lena, this activism is dragging us into a political storm. Focus on business." Her words stung, echoing the "business first" mantra I'd heard from white colleagues my whole career. Evelyn, a black woman herself, had climbed corporate ladders by staying quiet, her skepticism a generational divide. I thought of Mama, who'd scrubbed floors to send me to college, urging me to shine, not shout. But shining hadn't stopped Gregory, hadn't closed the gap where black women were 3% of C-suite leaders in 2025. "This isn't activism," I said, my voice firm. "It's accountability." We secured the $1.9 billion DoD contract because of my stand, not despite it. Evelyn's eyes narrowed, but others nodded, Jamal Pierce's quiet support anchoring me. Jamal, my COO, saw the toll but never wavered. "You're carrying too much, Lena," he said over a late-night call, his Houston drawl a comfort. He'd taken on Code for Change's daily operations, mentoring kids like Mia Torres, whose bias reporting app now had 50,000 users. His own past, raised by a single dad, defying stereotypes, mirrored mine, but his calm balanced my storm. "Zoe needs you whole," he added, and I choked back tears. Zoe had started a blog, Zoe's Truth, sharing her #MySeatStory, a teacher assuming she cheated, peers whispering about her angry mom. Her posts went viral, 20,000 followers amplifying her voice, but each one cost her. Trolls sent her hate, one message so vile I banned her from X for a week. Her defiance, "I'm not stopping, Mom," was my pride and my pain. Gregory's shadow loomed largest. His appeal, claiming reverse discrimination, gained traction on conservative talk shows, painting him as a victim of my woke crusade. I learned more through a leaked Horizon memo. Gregory had mentored junior staff, his charm masking a pattern of targeting minority passengers. 5 complaints, all buried, proved he wasn't just biased, he was calculating, his power a shield. His appeal wasn't about justice, it was about preserving that shield, a middle-aged white man refusing to yield. I felt a surge of anger, remembering his jetway smirk, but also exhaustion. How many Gregorys had I faced? The professor who doubted my code, the VP who'd called me articulate like it was a surprise, the strangers who'd clutched purses near me. Each one chipped away, and now, with Zoe's safety at stake, I wondered if the cost was too high. I launched Heal Forward, a partnership with a Seattle mental health nonprofit, to ease that weight. Offering free counseling to discrimination victims, it aimed to break the stigma where only 8% of Black Americans seek therapy. At its launch, a Black veteran shared his story, profiled at a bank, his trauma buried until Heal Forward sessions gave him voice. His tears mirrored mine, a release I hadn't allowed myself. Heal Forward wasn't just aid, it was survival, a gift to you, the 25 to 55-year-olds who've swallowed pain to keep going. Maybe you're the nurse hiding hurt, the coder masking frustration, the parent shielding kids from hate. I saw you, and Heal Forward was my vow to help you heal. Sarah Coleman's arc added complexity. I learned she'd resigned from Horizon, her letter citing Gregory's toxic influence. She emailed me, her words raw, "I should have stopped him. I'm trying to make it right." She'd joined a diversity consultancy, training airlines on bias, her guilt a spark of redemption. I didn't trust her fully. Her jetway silence still stung, but her shift challenged me. Could complicity turn to courage? I thought of the woman in the navy suit, her anonymous apology unanswered. Sarah's effort, unlike hers, demanded respect, a reminder that change needed flawed allies. Patricia Newman, too, surprised me. Her call last week was earnest. We're expanding our diversity board, Lena. Will you advise? I hesitated, wary of PR, but her $40 million pledge and 65% complaint drop suggested sincerity. Trust was a gamble, but one I'd consider. The DoD contract, finalized despite the chaos, was my anchor. The official's note, "Your integrity strengthens our partnership," felt like vindication, but it didn't erase Zoe's fear or Evelyn's doubt. I stood at the safe house window, Seattle's skyline a cold contrast to Houston's warmth, and felt the toll. My inbox held 30 threats this week, each one a reminder of Gregory's defiance, of a world resisting change. Yet, Zoe's blog, Mia's app, Sarah's shift, and your #MySeatStory posts lit a path. I wasn't alone. You, the teacher, the tech worker, the parent, carried this with me. Heal Forward's 1,000 sessions booked, Voice Vanguard's 100,000 downloads, they were our fight, our healing. Emotionally, I was raw, grief for Zoe's lost innocence, pride in her courage, exhaustion from endless battles. Gregory wasn't just a man, he was a system, and dismantling him cost everything. But Mama's voice echoed. Shine, Lena, don't break. I wouldn't break. I'd heal, rebuild, fight on. The safe house felt like exile, but it was also a forge, shaping Zoe's resolve, my purpose, our future. Gregory's appeal, Evelyn's pushback, the threats, they were noise. The signal was clear, we were changing the world, one story, one app, one session at a time. And as Zoe sketched beside me, her smile a quiet victory, I knew the cost was steep, but the cause was worth it. I stepped onto Horizon Airlines Flight 524 to Seattle, my first-class boarding pass for Seat 2A feeling like a quiet victory, the warm nod from the flight attendant, a black woman named Keisha Grant, washing away the sting of that Dallas jetway 6 months ago. I'm Lena Harper, CEO of Tech Vanguard, and my stand against racism, sparked by Gregory Vance's refusal to honor my ticket, had reshaped an airline, ignited a movement, and carved a path for my daughter, Maya, to walk with bolder steps. As I settled into my seat, Maya's text glowed on my phone, "You're my hero, Mom. Fly safe." Her words carried me through the storms of threats, boardroom clashes, and Gregory's defiance, landing me here, in a moment of transformation where dignity was a right, not a battle. The $1.9 billion audit, #MySeatStory, Code for Justice, Voice Vantage, and Heal Forward were my monuments, but this flight was a promise. A new horizon where change was real, and you, the 25 to 55-year-olds who'd stood with me, were its builders. Horizon had been reborn. Keisha's professional check of my pass, identical to the white passengers before me, was a far cry from Gregory's sneer. Their $50 million equity initiative had cut discrimination complaints by 70%, their stock climbing 20% above pre-crisis highs, proof that inclusion wasn't just moral, it paid dividends. Patricia Newman had exceeded my demands. Gregory was fired, his 6 buried complaints exposed in a transparent audit, anti-bias training reached 30,000 employees, and a diversity council, with me as a consultant, aimed to triple Black and Hispanic hires by 2030. Other airlines, Delta, United, Southwest, launched equity programs, their leaders citing my audit as a turning point. In 2025, when Black women like me were 3% of C-suite executives, this felt like a breach in the walls that had boxed us out, a light for you, the nurse, the engineer, the parent fighting to be seen. My legacy ran deeper, rooted in community. Code for Justice, my $15 million Houston initiative, graduated 75 Black and Hispanic youth, including Javier Ruiz, whose app, A Digital Equity Lens, flagging bias in public spaces, had 300,000 users. At a Houston summit, Javier gripped my hand, saying, "You showed me I'm not just a dreamer." I remembered my third ward nights, coding in a library to escape doubt, my mother's voice urging me to rise above. VoiceVantage, our AI-powered app, hit 500,000 downloads, linking 5,000 discrimination victims to pro bono lawyers. A black chef in Miami used it to sue a hotel for racial bias, winning justice and pride. #MySeatStory, born from my Truth Cast, was now a consumer equity alliance, funding 2,000 cases yearly. Your stories, tweeted, shared, lived, built this, each post a stone in a new foundation. I'd launched a Unity flight last month, a Horizon plane carrying 40 leaders, black, Hispanic, white, Asian, to discuss equity, streamed to 25 million on X. Keisha, now a diversity trainer, spoke. I saw Gregory's bias and stayed silent. Lena's courage woke me up. Her words stirred me, proof that even the complicit could change. Patricia joined, her tone resolute. We're building a new horizon, for everyone. The flight raised $2 million for the Consumer Equity Alliance, a beacon of progress. I felt a swell of pride, tempered by the memory of Gregory's appeal, his claim of reverse bias, a last grasp at power. His firing was justice, but his arc wasn't simple. He'd joined a bias training program, speaking at a conference. I hurt people, starting with Ms. Harper. I'm unlearning my mistakes. I watched the clip, conflicted. His 6 complaints proved his cruelty, yet his remorse, however late, hinted at redemption. I didn't absolve him, but I saw the human beneath the villain, a lesson in the messiness of change. Jamal Pierce, my COO, saw the stakes. You've made bias a business liability, Lena, he said at the summit, his smile bright but eyes serious. He'd mentored Javier, his third ward grit fueling his drive, but he worried for Maya. She's fierce, but shield her, he urged. Maya, now 16, had turned her pain into power on her blog, Maya's Voice, with 75,000 followers reading her #MySeatStory, a teacher doubting her math skills. She'd coded a solidarity signal for Javier's app, alerting allies to bias incidents in real time. Her fire was mine, but her trolls, hate messages spiking after her posts, kept me vigilant. I want to change things, like you, she'd said, and I prayed her world would be gentler. Sarah Coleman, the attendant who'd faltered, had risen. Her consultancy trained 15 airlines, her workshops raw. I let Gregory control me. Now I teach others to act. She'd apologized at the Unity flight, her eyes wet, and I nodded, not forgiveness, but respect. Her work was a bridge where silence once stood. Patricia, too, had evolved. Her consultancy role wasn't optics. She'd funded VoiceVantage's rural rollout, reaching 50,000 users. I joined her council, not out of trust, but partnership. My mother's words rang, rise, Lena, and lift others. I was lifting, and you were too, every share, every download, every story told. I launched StorySpark, a Tech Vanguard-funded fellowship training Black youth to produce justice-focused podcasts. At its debut, an 18-year-old from Detroit shared his story, profiled at a park, his podcast now reaching 15,000 listeners. His voice was Maya's, Javier's, yours. StorySpark wasn't just media, it was a megaphone for you, the 25 to 55-year-olds who faced doubt but kept climbing. Maybe you're the teacher who's been sidelined, the tech worker who's been questioned, the parent teaching kids to stand tall. StorySpark was your platform, your power. The DoD contract, worth $1.9 billion, was secure, its officials lauding my unyielding integrity. But the true win was Horizon's 70% complaint drop, Code for Justice graduates, VoiceVantage's reach. Threats had faded, but Gregory's appeal had taught me, racism didn't vanish, it morphed. Keisha's nod, Javier's app, Maya's blog, they were our morphing, our resilience. I urged you to act, share your hashtag #MySeat story, buy from Black-owned businesses, join the Consumer Equity Alliance. Your voice could shift the horizon, like mine. As the plane taxied, I reflected on my journey. I'd learned that racism wasn't just Gregory's smirk, it was systems, silences, choices. I'd learned power wasn't vengeance but accountability, turning pain into progress. I'd learned change was messy, Gregory's remorse, Sarah's shift, Patricia's growth, but possible. Most of all, I'd learned we weren't alone. You, Maya, Javier, Keisha, you were my strength. Houston's skyline faded below, my third ward roots a reminder of why I'd fought. The jetway was a scar, but this flight was a healing, a horizon we built together. If you were in a similar situation, with elements like racism, business power, and the consequences of bad customer service, how would you approach it to achieve the best possible outcome? Would you leverage your influence, like I did with the audit? Would you amplify voices, like hashtag #MySeatStory? Would you build, like Code for Justice? Your choice could spark a new horizon, and I'm listening.